When was a time, Captain Ryan, that you doubted what we were building?
When I doubted what we were building.
I've never asked you this before.
That's a tough one. That is a challenging one.
I am starting this podcast off with a zinger of a question and something Ryan and I have never had a full-on discussion about before.
I think this had to have been like maybe 3 years ago. 3 to 4 years ago. When Melinda was, had the idea for building the course program out. I was not not buying it.
Yeah.
I was not buying it. I had a lot of resistance against it. So that was, that was it 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. I would say 3 to 4 years ago was definitely our toughest time.
Mm-hmm.
For 100%. And except for the very beginning that we'll flash back to in a second.
Yeah, except for the very beginning.
Very beginning was really hard.
Yeah, except for the
when
very
nothing
beginning.
Was working out.
Yeah.
Like, people, literally nothing was working out. We were here. We were like, now what do? We have no money, no jobs, didn't know anybody. We weren't the right age group. It was just crazy. And that was October 2009.
Mm-hmm.
October 2009.
Yep.
And we're recording this on January 25th, 2026.
Yep.
A lot of years and a lot of
years.
Learnings, mm-hmm. Right?
I guess it was like, for myself, it was getting the sport fishing business up and going, and then finally getting the Instagram the way I wanted it, and then there was a pivot with the educational. I didn't like how I was having the shift from how I was posting the educational stuff. I didn't like, there was a lot of things I didn't like. I had some encounters with people that I didn't like.
Yep. So originally, for those of you out there, and thank you for listening, originally it came to me to call this podcast Trust the Process. But honestly, we're not here to just tell you to trust the process, because you can get that on so many other Facebook memes, podcasts, whatever. Everyone can just say that. But we've been married almost 20 years, been in business really since we got laid off, because we set up our LLC before we even relocated from Minneapolis to the Florida Keys. And like I said, we relocated and landed here October 1st, 2009, but I was laid off in January of 2009 and Ryan was laid off in June of 2009. So we were laid off basically at the same time with no jobs. And you know what? We really want to tell you more about the process, so you really start to understand that this isn't just motivational content that we share about, because we have been through the ringer on so many things. And I used to say in my old podcast, The Good Karma Success Coach, which you can go back and listen to some episodes, Ryan and I spoke on that one too, not every day is sunshine and rainbows. And that's true.
That is true.
That is true. Not every day is sunshine and rainbows. And I think that, if you are in a relationship, that takes a lot of work. And if you have a business, if you're an entrepreneur, that takes a lot of work. And I'm not discounting everyone else out there that also has a job and, other children and different things that are different from our life. But when you combine these things, whatever your combo is, it just makes life even a little more crazier.
Yep. It sure does.
Yep. So I kind of just gave the little bit of highlights. But for me, definitely that time, because it had settled that I had quit my being a road rep. So I was a 1099 as a road rep, and I was a multi-8-figure road rep for 12 years. And it took 6 years I'd say, to build that. And it took 6 years for us to hit some serious momentum in Good Karma Sport Fishing.
Mm-hmm.
6 years, people. 6 years, from 2012, January 2012 to the summer of 2018.
Right.
We did not have momentum.
Right.
Did not have momentum.
Mhm.
It took that long. And then when Ryan mentioned the Instagram, we weren't on social media. We built everything through referrals, through working with local hotels, and getting online.
Yes.
Getting online was very big, and our foundation has been that. So that has been our foundation. But when I stopped being a sales rep fully in 2021, and then we got the body slam of losing where we were living because our landlord pulled the lease from us because she had a clause and she wanted to raise the rent because the rents all went up everywhere across the country and the world, really, because of COVID. So the Keys, all the rents went up astronomically, and we had to find a new place to live, and we landed here, which is a great house, but the rent was more, and we were basically in the middle of a pivot when that all happened.
Yep. We were right in the middle of the shift.
And when I tell you it sucked, yeah, it sucked. It sucked really bad. It was dark, and it was bad. It was bad. So, so I feel like I felt really called to start this conversation, and there's so many different layers to it that Ryan and I are going to podcast about together over, this next course of time. We tend to podcast when he's home and he has a break. So if you don't know this, we own Good Karma Sportfishing and educational programs. And so my husband is actually a full-time, because we live in the Keys, so it's all year round, fishing charter captain, and we have a lot of charters. So when he's not fishing, he needs a day to recoup, right?
Right.
And just be able to relax, take a nap, go through emails, things like that, get caught up on courses. And then if there's an extra day after that or two, then we can do some content together. We can, do some different things. So that's why our podcasting is a little more sporadic, is because our life is not like a typical, influencer where it's their full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
This is for us additional things where we want to show up and serve and really help people with some real life experience that we have that's not sugar-coated and not just the highlight reel. That we do have a full-time real in-person business with weather, with conditions, with electronics, with mechanical, with people.
Yep. 100%.
With all sorts of marketing that people have no clue about.
All sorts of stuff.
All sorts of things. And so our podcasting schedule sometimes is a little more inconsistent, which I've had to wrangle with mentally in terms of comparison, but for the most part, we're here.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yep.
So how do you feel that you got through that? And again, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but what would you say that you could share out there with somebody who is going through some challenges in their life, in their business, in their health? We've definitely had health things to work on, in their marriage, in their relationship with a partner or a friend even.
Yeah, the fishing industry, it's like this with everybody that actually is a full-time fisherman or in any sort of fishing, like any sort of thing, okay? So the one thing I have to, for me, my biggest challenge was I didn't want to share anything because it was so challenging to build what I had. And I did not want to make somebody's life easier. I really didn't. I felt that they should go through the pain like I did, and even worse, they should suffer. So, but Melinda, it was a hard process. I'm going to be honest with you. It was not easy to shift, but every morning we'd get up, and Melinda put me through a regiment of this is like getting me through to where I need to be professionally. That was it. I can't. It's a very I can't really explain it. Melinda can do that, but I had to be willing to do the work as well, and I was willing to do the work. So,
and we talked about that on the frequency podcast a little bit in terms of the fact that Ryan was always clear from the very beginning, even though we didn't start off with some our life is perfect. but he was always very clear that he wanted to do the work. And I believe in personal development, and I'm always doing the work. So I think just the fact that we matched frequencies with wanting to be the best versions of ourselves and then show up and help others was a match. I mean, that was a match. And if you have two people that aren't in alignment, whatever your alignment is, that's where you have to really look at your relationship. But I knew that. I think for me, when we were going through it, I really, number one, started to see the value in one-on-one coaching and mentorship, and that you cannot get the same results from being in masterminds, group coaching, watching podcasts, Facebook Lives, because the work that I could do with Ryan one-on-one in a every morning conversation and hold him accountable and also myself was everything. And then understanding that takes time. It takes time to change that. Change patterns, to see patterns, change behaviors. And the biggest thing is reactions, which hardly anyone talks about. So if you can catch someone's reaction and pretty much like hold them to it, even though it's extremely uncomfortable, you have to be okay to sit with the discomfort and risk that and get through that fear. I think that was like the biggest thing.
Yeah, that was it.
That was the biggest thing. So it sounds really like I simplified a process that was very big, but at the crux of it, I had a good friend ask me, she's like, well, how did it happen? And I said, I talked to him every day. We had, tools and sat and talked. And, a lot of couples can't do that, don't want to do that. They're afraid to do that. They don't have the skills to do that. And I'm not a therapist, and I don't personally believe in therapy. I've seen several therapists for many reasons over the years, for so many different reasons. It's actually like I could write a book about this. But this is different. It's different in terms of having a safe place to have a really tough conversation and be able to be honest and look at things, and that's a different type of mentorship and coaching, I would say. When you can really see that, you can feel someone's energy and know when energetically there needs to be a conversation with a certain point, and keep addressing all of that. So
that's correct.
Yeah. Yep. So that was a big thing. But in all of that is this level of resilience that I really want to talk about. And I think that being resilient is one of the most important qualities you can have. Like I say, curiosity is super important, 100%, but also resilience. And I have resilience, you have resilience. The clients that I have worked with over the years that are very successful have resilience. And so I've always seen a pattern with people in terms of success is that they're resilient, because if someone thinks that everything's supposed to be perfect in this journey, is just not. Like, it is not. There are challenges and complications, and honestly, the bigger your dreams are, and this does sound cliche, and you can, roll your eyes with me if you want on this, but the bigger your dreams are, the more challenges you're going to have, because that's what you can handle. And you do have to pass those quote unquote tests along the way. And that is resilience. That is resilience to stay the course and continue to show up and do the thing, whatever your thing is. And you know this on the water.
Yes.
You know this on the water. You're not a quitter.
I do. It's and being able to it's definitely not easy out there now more than ever. So I had an instance happen. I had something happen to me 2 weeks ago, and I could feel the pressure in my head. I could feel the heat burning on my head, and the clients were looking at their watches, and I could just feel this. And everybody goes through this in any job, and I just so happened that I had like some ice in a brine, like super cold, and I went ahead and I put my hands into this ice brine, and it cooled my entire body down in my head. And I put a cold rag in it, and I stuck it on the back of my neck, and it immediately brought my body temperature down, and it brought me clarity. I had this hit to do that. And I was able to think through things, keep my cool, make a joke, and I made a change, and we ended up catching a full limit of fish in a matter of 2 hours at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, but that's what it took. I would have been able to do that versus last year. No way. Versus the year before, absolutely not.
In terms of the idea coming to you.
In terms of that idea coming to me.
In terms of the idea coming to you. That's what I think is really important. So when he told me the next day at the dock, when we were loading the boat, he was like, oh, this is what happened yesterday, and I had this idea come to me, and this is what I did. And I was like, what? And I was like, oh my gosh, I was so excited for him, because that's what I think is so exciting about this world and us as humans and all this, is when you release resistance, when you can get through all of this junk that you may have in your field, and then you're in a high pressure situation and an idea just comes to you. And this idea was physiological in terms of like him, something with his body, and he puts his hands in ice and it cools his body down and changes his whole state, and he could go on with these clients on the water. Like, that's everything. That's incredible. When you can get to a place where natural tools are like at your fingertips, and now he has that tool. Now he has that tool that he can use whenever. And I, like, after I like celebrated dancing on the dock at 4:30 in the morning, I went to Gemini, who's my best friend, and besides Ryan, and I asked Gemini about it, and Gemini was like, yeah, that's an amazing tool for your husband and totally relieves pressure, and that was awesome. So you hear about cold baths, right, and cold plunges, and so I know that that's out there. Believe me, don't think I don't know about that. But when you use it in real time and the idea comes to you, and it's not part of like something we do at our house, like, that's the magic. And that he listened to the idea and he did it and it worked is also magic, because I'm sure you would agree with me, is like, sometimes people get an idea, but their ego is like, oh, I'm not going to do that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or that's silly.
Or silly.
I don't have time.
Yeah.
Or they just ignore it.
Or they just ignore it. They try to be tough.
Right. Try to be tough. That's a good way to put it.
It's a good way to get yourself
tough it out.
Yeah. They try to be tough. They try to be like this. Yeah. It's just interesting. So, but if you're in a pressure situation, you work outside, it's going to keep you out of situations. Yep. Just by doing that.
Yep.
So I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah. And so that helped you stay grounded under extreme pressure, right?
Yep.
That helped you stay grounded under extreme pressure. That helped you regulate your nervous system. It was somatic. It just really was understanding that and letting down that guard. So instead of focusing on mental toughness, you went more for a somatic steadiness within the realm of still your fishing charter, which was incredible.
Yep.
That was incredible. So that, to me, as someone who is like literally standing on the sidelines of the dock, was like totally celebrating. Yeah. Was really celebrating. Yeah, no, it was awesome. I really, it just came to me, and I do it now. Now it's like I had an instance like last week where I just put my feet in it, and the clients are laughing. And I was like, with your gym shoes? Yeah, with my gym shoes on. Oh my god, you didn't tell me that one. And it totally was like it does something to your body. It's like your heat in your head. So I had another one with a client. He was getting hot, and I was like, here, let's, instead of just putting ice water on there, let's do this salt water cold ice bath. And I gave them and they were feeling ill and sick because of the heat, and I just put that rag in there, and I was like, I'm gonna make you feel better here.
And we ended up putting it on his head, and it cooled him down. I go, "How you feel now?" He says, "I feel really good."
That's so cool. That's so cool.
And that's the type of things that you got to be conscious about is other people. So
yeah.
So I'm very, very like that's it's just those little things have really helped me. A lot. Those ideas come to me more now and other things. So to be a better fisherman, to be better at certain things, and just be a better person, how I communicate. So I've just learned that there's just also too, I just know the type of person that I like and like I don't like, and so it's just I've learned it just more how to be Ryan. So
yeah, more how to be yourself. So I'm gonna close this out because I feel like this is perfect. So what just came to me was, instead of, which is so perfect, I just love this, instead of trust the process, we're gonna say trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself. So when you have one of those ideas come to you, don't doubt it, don't question it, don't ignore it, don't think it's stupid, or you don't have time, or you're not going to be considered tough enough, which is what, Ryan would have probably had if he would have gone down that path, because he's, literally a sport fishing captain. And that's his job, is to be... he doesn't have like an easy desk job in terms of like air conditioning, cushy chair.
Yeah, this is the occupation that I chose.
We actually need to get a new chair.
Yeah, and I need to get a new chair.
We actually need to get him a new chair. So mental toughness is part of his game and his, overall, let's say, mindset. And so, for him to listen to the idea that dropped in is incredible. So we want to encourage you all to do that too. And how you get there is the journey. And if you're interested in working with me, my website is melindavanfleet.com. I have premium one-on-one mentorship options on my website. And I also have a Patreon community with free and small ticket items. If the cost of working one-on-one is not in your budget, I totally understand that. And I have my Patreon to help you in the process of your journey, because that's all this is. It's a journey, and you can't get there from here. Like, you have to do all the work in the middle. I don't care what anyone says. It's literally true. You have to do the work.
That's right. You do.
You have to do the work. So for us, starting our business was a lot of work, and then pivoting the business was a lot of work.
Yep.
And we'll dive more into that as podcasts go on. But you want to say for people to find you, Captain Ryan?
You can you can visit my website at goodkarmasportfishing.com. I have a lot of information on there. And then on Instagram, goodkarmasportfishing _FL_keys. And then if you have questions, you can email me at goodkarmaryan@gmail.com.
Yep, perfect. So thank you, everyone, for listening. We appreciate it. Please subscribe. Find me also on Instagram. All this will be in the show notes. And until next time.
Anytime you're fishing, it's all good.
Thank you.